that provides a firm foundation for human dignity and human rights.
Thank you so much, sir, for a valuable insight on Golden Rule and the responsibility of human beings for each other and the dynamics of justice and mercy. Now moving forward towards the last presenter of the session, I would like to invite Dr. Omer Farooq Saeed to present his paper, and the topic is the ideal relationship between science, reason and religion. Please, sir. As you said. Yeah, for sure.
On? Okay. ये okay. ठीक है. Okay. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, and my fellow participants, may peace be on all of you. As you are seeing, that the topic of my research paper is the scientific understanding of religion and the religious understanding of science. Science is a modern day avatar. It wasn't not more than 100 years ago. There were some soothsayers and magicians doing some supernatural things, and then people were getting amazed by seeing those things. But in today's world, the things which science do, we are already amazed, and we would not need any more soothsayers and magicians to do those things for us. But as for science, which is a very important part of today's society, there is a spiritual part of a human's life as well, and that part is the religious part. So if we consider both these disciplines or parties, the science and religion, so we have to find out a way to reconcile between them and to find a way which is the ideal way, the ideal relationship between the two disciplines, that is the religion and science. In the past, if you see in the history, it hasn't been a very great history about between these two disciplines, religion and science. We have the example of Galileo Galilei, who suffered at the hand of some religious stereotypes, and also in the present times, not so long ago, that some Muslim clerics were spotted criticizing science and getting too over it. So we try to find out that what ideal relationship should these two disciplines should enjoy, and what should that be. To introduce the topic, if we see that religion actually is a very static kind of a phenomena, static in terms of doctrines and creed, and science is an ever rotating monopoly. It's ever rotating in terms of theories and in terms of new ideas, and everything about science is always keeps on rotating. It's not a static phenomena. So how to find ideal relationships then in this kind of a situation? So if we see, the science is interrelated to each other. All the sciences are interrelated to each other. For example, if we try to examine the human bone, and if you try to measure its length, it is a part of physics. And if you try to find out what chemicals it does have, it is a part of chemistry. And it itself and the human bone is a study of anatomy. And if you see it with your eyes, then the eyes is a part of ophthalmic part of science. And if you are wearing some spectacles, and it is a part of optics. And by optics, if you also see, you use telescopes to see in the space, and when you collect the data, it is stored in the computers and supercomputers, and it proves that it is also connected to technology as well, and then it is reasoned, and all the process leads to reasoning at the end. So we find out that reason is the main basic key point in science. So religion and science, is it a conflict or an agreement? We find out that it is very famous that we hear it many times. It's a conflict situation. It's not an agreement. Mostly it's not, but it's not true. It is how you perceive, how you are perceiving this thing. Both the disciplines, if you try to perceive religion as in terms of only everything has to be proved with science, then it's not possible. And also in science, if everything has to be mentioned in religion about science, it's not possible as well. So if we think about it and to find out some complementary relationship between the two, we found some of the examples which I can give you. A moment ago, I turned on my computer, and anyone who turn on his computer, he can take God's name before turning it on. But no scientist or no religious scholar will have any objection in that. So technology and religion, they found a kind of a coordination in between them. In the similar fashion, if we see that, what is some other examples of collaboration between science and religion? In order to give you a example from the present time, I have written this as a triple P kind of formula. Triple P meaning print, press, and printer. There was a time it was very difficult to write books. They were written on rocks and some animal bones as well. But in today's time, it is written on paper and printed on paper. So all the religious texts, sacred scriptures, they are printed on paper. And the religion is taking the help of science in this regard. And also that science is also getting benefited by it when the religious scholars or the religious people, they invest, science gets benefited by religion as a whole. So to give another example, in terms of, I'm speaking in a microphone, and it is many Jewish rabbis and the Muslim clerics and the bishops, and they also use these speakers and microphones. So it is a thing which is invented. It is an invention of science, and we are taking the help of it as a religious. It was very difficult in the previous times to convey what you are saying. Not more than 3-4 rows. You cannot address many people. So this is how the coordination occurs. If you want it or not, it does occur. To give you an example, about an all-rounder kind of a scholar. He was just 5 centuries ago. His name was Imam Ghazali, and he was an all-rounder in both the cases. He had the knowledge of science as well, and also the knowledge of religion. And he wrote a book named Mysteries of Soul, which really put a lot of light on what human soul is and what is transcendence and metaphysics and about meditation and all these things does fall under the social sciences as well, which is a part of science. And the other part of Imam Ghazali's forte was he was a religious scholar as well. He was an Islamic scholar as well. So for not getting on so religion getting on the wrong track. So you have to talk about the negativities as well, apart from the positivities. So we see that not more than 50 years ago, when the aeroplanes were invented, all right. So the Muslim clerics, they issued a verdict that it is not halal to travel in aeroplanes, because if you will travel, the Quran will be under the ground and your feet will be above it. So it's not as if all the birds are blasphemous. So this is what. So this kind of thing. This is the religion getting on the wrong track. This shouldn't happen. And also in case of science, if you see that you have to follow the right methodology. If you are a scientist and on the other hand, you try to comment on religion, on divinity, on theology, you are just transgressing the line. If in other cases, if you are really a scholar, or you are also a scientist and a religious scholar as well, this is well and good. But if you are only a scientist and then you try to comment or judge religion as well, then the things might go wrong. So this is I don't have any more time to go. So to conclude it, you should try to find out it is how you perceive. It is how you perceive the religion, how you perceive science as well. If you want to reconcile them, it is up to you. If you want to find rifts and you have to try to find disagreements, you will find it by the rate of wholesale. There are many, but you try to find out many agreements and the coordination between the two. It's up to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very informative presentation on the role of and medium of human progress through science and technology. Now I request Worthy Chairperson Dr. Ryan Brasher for expert remarks.
Assalamu alaikum, Shalom alaikum, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Jai Masih की। सबसे पहले मैं आप सबको फॉर्मन क्रिश्चियन कॉलेज की तरफ से सलाम कहना चाहता हूं। एफसी कॉलेज और मिनहाज यूनिवर्सिटी के दरमियान आपस में एक खास दोस्ती बन गई मुझे लगता है, एंड स्पेशली बिकॉज ऑफ डॉक्टर चार्ल्स रैमजी and his time at FC College. He really developed that link with the worthy Hussein Ul-Qadri, and so we're very thankful for that, and it's very nice to see so many Formanite faces in the audience today as well, so that's very great. First of all, I should say that I'm very impressed with this panel because everyone more or less stayed in their time. एक बहुत बड़ा मुआजिज़ा है. Most of the conferences I'm at, usually that is not the case. So congratulations to you all. Secondly, I should say I'm a professor of political science, so my expertise on this topic is limited to the extent that we political scientists deal with these issues. So I'm not a philosopher nor a natural scientist. So मेहरबानी से मुझे माफ करें. I just wanted to point out some common themes that I saw in the papers today. First of all, the first common theme that I saw seemed to be that reason serves as a link between faith and understanding the natural world or the empirical world. Reason is something that it can be rooted in religion, but it's also a key to understanding the natural empirical world. Secondly, there's the sense that in our religious faith we find many encouragements to pursue scientific endeavors. So earlier we heard a verse from the Holy Torah. I'll just repeat it again, Genesis 1:28. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Sometimes this is criticized for having a kind of a exploitative message, but I think the message is more about mastering the earth in terms of understanding it and structuring it. And that is really the scientific endeavor as well. Thirdly, all of the speakers agreed that religion is perfectly compatible with science, and that the incompatibility is something that the idea of it arose in the 1800s and maybe does not reflect reality. And the fourth point was this idea that science as it is practiced today, whether by religious or non-religious people, it lacks a compass in terms of virtue and meaning. When we talk about the questions of virtue and meaning, we don't turn to the natural sciences. We return to philosophy, and we turn to theology and religion. Now, what I wanted to add to this discussion was the following. I think in most of this discussion, it's here in Pakistan but elsewhere as well, there's two underlying fears. First of all, when we have conferences like this, we are subconsciously or consciously speaking against the extremism that rejects science and says that science and religion is incompatible. And secondly, and this tends to be the bigger issue in the West, we also are sort of wary of the natural materialism, and this is what we call new atheism, which also rejects the idea that faith and science can be compatible with each other. And so I suppose this is the function of this conference, these 2 days, is to push back against these two ideas, that number one, we need to reject science because it is only the kafir log who do that, and number two, from the atheists, the direction that religion is just a bunch of nonsense and cannot tell us anything about science. This is what we will call the conflictual view, and all of you have talked about it, the idea that science and religion are not compatible with each other. I wanted to briefly mention a famous scientist. His name is Georges Lemaitre. He was a Belgian Catholic priest and also the fellow who came up with the Big Bang Theory, the theory that was mentioned today. Many of us don't know this, but one of the theories that we sometimes suppose is anti-faith was developed by a Catholic priest. And in his young years, he came to the conclusion that religion and science are perfectly compatible. We call this concordism. This concordism, the idea that you can find scientific nukta, scientific nuggets in the holy texts, and that science and religion are not two separate subjects but are intertwined with each other. But then he came to the realization that this can be a very dangerous approach, because the holy texts are not really modern scientific texts, and we can't use them as sort of empirical sources to test theories. The holy books were written in the pre-modern era, and we have to be very careful when we look at them with our modern eyes. You can't read Scripture as a scientific text. It shows the way to salvation, but it doesn't outline scientific knowledge, at least not directly. And so Georges Lemaitre rejected the concordist view. On the other side, there was the compartmentalist view, the idea that these are in completely two different domains. You're religious over here, you can be faithful in your belief in God, and you do science over here, and the twain shall never meet. So two separate areas of life. But that was also too extreme for Georges Lemaitre. He essentially said there is some interaction between them. Just because the concordist view is a bit too extreme in trying to mix the two, the compartmentalist goes in the other direction. And so he essentially aligned himself with the accommodationist perspective. This is a perspective that is held both by what we can call open-minded atheists and also religious scientists as well. Accommodationists essentially argue that we need to have a middle ground between concordism and compartmentalization. Number one, divine action is hidden throughout the universe. In other words, the scientific method will not help us prove that God exists. That is not possible. Secondly, he also argued the Bible is not a scientific text. You should not expect to find hidden nuggets somewhere and say, aha, look, the Bible is true. I found Einstein's theory of relativity in this book and that book. Georges Lemaitre says, no, don't misuse the Bible for that purpose. Religion also does not provide the investigative tools to help solve science problems. The scientific method follows a particular path. Religion does not provide us the tools for that. However, religion does reveal truths that we could not have figured out by ourselves and that science would have never helped us figure out. What religion does do, it gives us a framework that says, look, science is a worthy endeavor. Nature is a solvable enigma. That is, I think, what was said earlier. When we come from a theistic perspective, we see nature not as an unsolvable enigma, as a solvable enigma, because there is a God who gives order behind it. So religion gives us the motivation to do science. So for Georges Lemaitre, faith gave him the scientific conviction and hope that various enigmas could be solved. It gave him the encouragement to continue and not discontinue when he was facing some problems as a scientist. But he was very careful, and when the Pope, at the time I believe it was Pope Pius, wanted to use his theory of the Big Bang in an apologetic text to prove that theism was correct, Georges Lemaitre went to him and said, please don't do this, because what if my theory is disproved tomorrow and you're using it as an apologetic tool? So let's not misuse science in ways that it wasn't designed to do. Let's not try to use it and say, ha, Big Bang, it means my religion is right. And let's not try to find Einstein's theory of relativity in every little verse in the holy text. But let's also not keep them separate, completely separate from each other, because there are questions. The border between science and religion is not hard and fast. It is evolving, and it is a bit ambiguous. So on that ambiguous note, I will end.
Thank you so much, sir. This session is now open for questions. Please raise your hand if someone has any question. It's my humble request that questions should be precise so that we can accommodate as many questions as possible.
Assalamualaikum. My question is directed towards Dr. Phillips Duncan. Doctor, you have said that atheists don't have any particular point for their morality. I would like to know your view about the social contract theory of morality. Secondly, you have said that we should follow the morality of God as it is a common perspective for all the religions. But I do not think that's the case, that God of all religions have a particular morality which is same for all religions. And if, I want to ask you, where does the morality of God come from? If the morality of God comes from a moral perspective, a moral philosophy, then why don't all the religious people find that moral philosophy and tell it to the secular people so that everyone can follow that rational route of moral philosophy? Because it will be easy, we would not require religion for that. And
I think maybe you've got the question, so let's continue with the question, and we'll have Duncan Peters answer.
I would like to.
But yeah, we shouldn't have this as a statement time, but as a question time. So
Yeah.
if I could ask you to have a seat, please. Thank you.
Dealing with your last question first, I think you'd asked where I think it was where does the morality of God come from? And in the Abrahamic faiths, God is eternal. So God himself, God's own nature, God's own character is the basis for morality. He is just, he is good, he is righteous. So that is the reference point for morality. In terms of other religions or varying religions and their view, I presented a Christian view based on the Torah, although I think the Torah it's obviously a Jewish scripture, it's also an Islamic scripture. I can't really speak beyond that for other faiths. But, so I think that.
Okay. This question is related to the question that is being asked. It's very
eternal conflict, it seems Dr. Bracer had been with the theistic traditions and religion, but not necessarily the non-theistic traditions, which represents also a large segment of population in the world. The problem is, where does non-theism in the discourse of science, reason and religion? Religion is not just theism. Religion is also described under non-theism. And beyond theism and non-theism there is religion. In that sense, why don't we allow science to do what it does, what it normally is ordained to do, and also allow religion to do what it does normally in its own arena? And why we ultra extra agents try to marry this and bring in Al-Quran, sacred scripture, and bash it to text is needed to prove science is inbuilt in the text. Text is there to allow us to see something that text is ordained to do. So allow probably the text to do what the text is ordained to do, and allow science to do what it is ordained to do. It's not exactly a question, Brian, but a sort of a statement, I'm afraid.
I have a question that is related to this, actually. Yes? There's also the question about reason. In the West, we went through the Enlightenment, when reason was very important. But when we started to find reason very much important, then actually religion or faith became less important. So reason became God. We talk about reason here in religion, that we need reason in religion because that's important, and I agree that's important, but what is actually the place of reason? That's my question. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and explain that the place of reason in the religion?
And who's the question directed to? Oh.
Okay. To you.
I think I'll pass it on to someone who hasn't had a chance yet.
Should I answer? Okay. So in religion, the proper base, if you call it in one liner, if you would ask me, that some things in religion are above reason. Some things in terms of religion are above reason. That is, number one, faith. Number two, miracles. These are above reason. If you try to prove them with a scientific phenomena, it won't be possible. And in terms of science, science is always, each and every scientific discovery or each and every theory that backs some kind of reasoning. So in terms of religion, you have to find out a way of reasoning inside the religious texts in many disciplines, in case of social sciences, in case of different scientific phenomena as well. But some things are above reason, and you have to put it that way, that faith is above reason, miracles that are described are above reason. You cannot just reason on that. If you would ask me that how a Virgin Mary gave birth to Jesus, you won't be able to answer it by reasoning methodology. So the methodology varies. So you have to keep it that way, I think.
I'm Rafi Jamal, news producer in this News English. I have two very short questions. If the chair, respectful chair, let me ask both of them. Short.
Just can you consolidate the two questions into one, because now
No,
we're
they
short
can.
of time.
They can't be
Now we're short of
done
time.
it
Then
like
I'll
this.
have to
Very short. Very short. I will keep it short. What is from Dr. Framaha? Doctor, you have said that Karama Sutta, the pure sayings, are the reasons which actually you have presented them as reasons, which are actually the natural facts, natural occurring facts, and facts cannot be presented as reasons. You have done it. I want to know the reason. The second, you have Mr. Phillips, sorry. You have thrown light on the dynamics of mercy. We see that the most powerful is the most intolerant, is the most strict, and is the most cruel, and the God is the most powerful being. All the religions ask us to believe that God is the most merciful. Why is that?
Okay, it's okay. To the question, direct to the question, actually, if you look at 10 specific sources, people may think that it is reasonable. Therefore, you then maybe immediately, believe on that. But Buddha said that do not, believe just merely. It is like the one who tell the story is even your guru or your teachers. But take those information into consideration and then think about it, have a critical reflection, and then start doing something. For example, if you are going to solve the problem in the society, then you need to find out the problem and comprehend those problems and analyze those problems, and then see what caused those problems and what cause and condition of the problem in the society or in the community, and then set up the goal, that we are to have a peaceful community, for example. And then you start finding, the way how to solve that problem. And you can have alternative way. There are many alternative way. Then after you can solve those problems, then you will find that it is the right way to solve the problem. So by practical, it's proof.
So on God's
I think we're done with the questions, but I will let you answer this one, and then we'll end this session.
So on God's power and mercy, I think one thing is, well, there's two things. First of all, I think to some extent God's mercy is shown just in creation, in the fact that, the Messiah Jesus talked of how God causes the sun to shine on both the good and the evil, and the rain to fall. So in just God's provision in creation, we see something of God's mercy in that. Beyond that, I'm probably better speaking about my own faith. I guess the whole of the scriptures, reveals the mercy of God in so many of God's interaction with human beings, God's dealing with human beings, and in the Injil, that's supremely so in the coming of the Messiah Jesus. It's a very big question, and I'm sure I haven't satisfied you, but that's probably how best I can do in a brief way.
Thank you so much. Sorry?
You can
Due to shortage of time, we can't accommodate.
you can take they can take your questions during the tea break. They're going to be here. They can take your questions at that time. But really short of time, we have to continue with the next session. Okay? Sorry.
Okay. Moving towards shield distribution, I will request Dr. Ryan Brasher to please come in front of the stage to distribute shield among presenters. International speakers will get souvenir in the closing ceremony. Dr. Omer Farooq Saeed, please come forward and receive your shield. Thank you so much. I request Dr. Ayn Brasher to please stay there for a while. And I request worthy controller of examination, Minhaj University Lahore, Dr. Sabi Salahuddin, to present token of appreciation to the chairperson of the session. Thank you so much. Now this session formally comes to an end, and I request all the presenters to please join us in front of the stage for a conference photograph. Thank you all for your precious time, and I request all of you to please ensure your presence right after the tea break.
Dear audience, we have a little bit of decorum for the tea break also. I would request the ladies to kindly go and get some tea for themselves and come back to their seats. We have a huge response to our good sessions, and we would like to manage the tea properly. So ladies at the back row, could you remain sitting please? Ladies at the back rows, could you remain sitting while the front rows go and get their tea? Could you please do that? We can get some photographs taken later on. Kindly, the front row students, kindly go and get yourself a cup of tea if you would like to have one. And once you're back, the next session will go. Thank you. The boys, male participants,